Welcome back to Venkanna English Guru. Friends, we were actually talking about English literature for UGC-NET examination. English literature for UGC-NET examination and other different examinations all over India. And it's also very useful. And if you are serious aspirant, serious research scholar of English literature or MA English, or if you're a student of MA in English or BA in English, these classes are also very useful in your practical life. But my focus is only on how to crack UGC-NET examination, how to crack APCET or TSET, any kind of state eligibility examination. And for that, and so far we have I have taken a number of classes with regard to this NT English or UGC-NET for more than 60 or 70 classes, and every day at 9 p.m. and where and due to some certain unforeseen reasons, I stopped taking classes from October 2021. But I hope I will contribute some other time. I feel like I have some free time and these days, and I can take some more classes on this net examination so that I can contribute for your own development for or improvement in your in qualifying these examinations. So friends, and I spoke about modernism, still modernism, in my previous classes, and and from today onwards, and my classes are going to be on postmodern literature, post-colonial literature, and post-structural criticism, and where uh, if time permits, I would like to talk about the writers like T.S. Eliot and Samuel Beckett and D.H. Lawrence and some of the prominent writers of the time, and some of the writers like Chinua Achebe and A.V.S. Naipaul or Margaret Atwood, Margaret Lawrence, and some of the Caribbean writers, some of the African American writers, American writers. So these are the writers that I want to focus on and in my coming videos, my friends. So you just look at, and the major important, I was even I thought of taking a number of classes on this, but there are some more reasons, and sometimes and and those situations may permit or may not permit us. That is what, forget about the issues. And these classes from today onwards, our classes are more specific on unit oriented. First, let me talk, maybe for 10 or 20 classes I may take on postmodernism, post-colonial literature. Like I'll give you certain introduction to African American literature, introduction to American literature, introduction towards Caribbean, Canadian, Indian writing in English. Maybe three to five classes I may take on these areas. So once, and I can say classes on postmodernism can be at least 20 to 30 classes, not less than that. Okay. So meanwhile, I also expect there will be a notification from NT UGC with regard to net examination. And once we see that notification, also will be so enthusiastic towards. Okay. So we'll go into the topic directly instead of talking about in general aspects. Postmodernism. Friends, I think you've been following and you've been attending all these classes so seriously. You know the periods of English literature. Still, we've been talking about English literature, not other types of literature. So the period, what is postmodernism? What are the characteristics of postmodernism? What happened to postmodernism? What happened to literature after 1939, after Second World War? And why there was a discussion with regard to African American Indian writing in English only after 1939 or 45. So these are the things that I'm also going to give you a wonderful distinction between what is postmodernism, post-colonialism, and post-structuralism. Is there any connection between these three? Yes, there is. So I'm going to give you this. I'm going to give you clarifications on these important ideas in this video. Okay, and enjoy listening to me. And meanwhile, remember all the time, subscribe to our YouTube channel, share our videos. And if I may stop for 1 or 2 months, but the thing is, I won't stop and permanent. Definitely, I'll see the notifications. Based on that, I'll continue my classes and always listen to them, listen to these classes, and share our videos to your friends and colleagues who are serious about learning English literature for enlightenment, or learning English literature for different competitive exams. So what is postmodernism? Friends, remember, what is postmodernism? Postmodernism, which means it is applied to the literature and art after World War II. The literature between World War One and World War Two, modernism, and the literature after post World War, World War Two, World War 1939 and World War Two, 1939 and 44, and the literature which is written after 1940s, which is considered to be postmodernism, postmodernist literature. And when and what were the major reasons for producing literature as a part of this postmodernism? What was the impact? What was the influence? Who actually influenced? What are the isms that influenced literature which was written during this time? And see, these were the reasons. When the effects of Western moral of the First World War and the kind of lessons that World War One taught to the world, mainly to the European world, and the impact and the influence, and the reasons for World War Two, Nazi totalitarianism, and by under Hitler, and mass killing. So how people were killed in those camps. Okay, next, and threat of total destruction, the spread of the atomic bomb and on Nagasaki and Hiroshima, and the impact that created a lot of impact on different people, and out of the minds of intellectuals, a lot of thoughts came out. That is what postmodernist literature, and the atomic bomb and the progressive devastation of natural environment and the problems of environment, you know and today you see a number of natural environmental issues, a lot of problems. Next, the ominous fact of overpopulation, other British Isles like Caribbean, Canadian, Indian, and other parts of the world, mainly in Asian. So these were the major important effects that influenced a number of writers of postmodern literature, and these contributed and to write a lot of literature during this period, which is more complex in nature. Next, friends, postmodernism involves not only a continuation. So, in this period, after 1945, literature was about not only a continuation, but sometimes carried an extreme counter traditional experiments of modernism. During modernism, modern literature was against a traditional, moral, religious, institutions, religious institutions, regional institutions, cultural institutions. In the same way, postmodernist literature was also against the religious institutions, traditional religious, traditional cultural institutions. So that is what. And but also diverse attempts to break away from modernist forms, not just and they multidimensional styles, multidimensional views, point of views, technique of narrations which were employed by the writers. Once you read literature like poetry of Ted Hughes, or the literature that is composed by Samuel Beckett or Harold Pinter, once you or Kurt Vonnegut, and you feel like, and it's not possible to understand interpreted text only in one perspective. You need to have multiple varieties to read a poem, read a novel. That is what. So, an extension of modernism, an extension of modernism, and an extension of the literary techniques that were employed during this period and during modernist period, which is nothing but postmodernism. Next, you could find a lot of writers like you see George Boyle and Louis Boggs, Samuel Beckett, Gabriel Garcia Marquez, Harold Pinter, Ted Hughes, Vladimir Nabokov, Thomas Pynchon, Ronald Barthes. So there are plenty of writers, my friends. Sometimes you see these were the writers who were immigrated from different parts of the world, and these were the writers from maybe Russians, maybe Italians, maybe Brazilians, maybe Canadians, maybe Caribbeans, maybe Indians like Rajarao, Mulkraj Anand, R.K. like plenty of other writers. You see, some prominent postmodernist writing prominently, one of the major important writers, my friends, once you read the text like Waiting for Godot. So the concept of absurd, the concept of absurdity, existentialism. So once we read these concepts, the philosophies, the kind of philosophies behind this, the ideas of absurdism, existentialism. So you see, Samuel Beckett, Harold Pinter, Iris Murdo, Seamus Heaney. There were plenty of writers, my friends, who spoke about the concept of absurdity in literature through drama, through poetry, through novel. And one of the major important precursors of the and who used the concept of absurdism was Samuel Beckett, an Irish popular dramatist and novelist. And what does it mean by this absurdity? To subvert the foundations of our accepted modes of thought and experience has to reveal the meaninglessness of existence. So our life is, somebody says, what is our life? But according to these people, life is an absurdity. Life is nothing but meaninglessness. Nothing happens, nobody comes, nobody goes, everything becomes awful. Once you look at the kind of relations, we have a lot of not a kind of rational kind of thing. And once you observe your practical life, and you happen to be a part of your mother, your father, your son, your daughter, your wife, your husband, and your teacher, your students, but once you think of think out of these relations, and your life becomes meaninglessness. That is what these people talk about. And without notice, we come to this world, but without notice, also, we can go out of this world. That is what life is. But in between life, what do you do? This is a very wonderful philosophy, my friends. Absurdity. Our life is absurdity. For example, I can say preparing for UGC-NET is also an absurdity. Why? What is the major important requirement for qualifying this NET examination? It's an absurd. Sometimes, if you think in a broad sense, so this absurdity talks about the concept of meaninglessness of existence in one's life. So once you think out of your family, think out of your society, out of your school or university, out of your country, and you feel like your existence is nothing but a kind of meaninglessness. So this is what I discussed, talks about, and presence in the absurd and nothingness on which any supposed security and is conceived to be precariously suspended. Not required, just remember. Next, postmodernism in literature and the arts has parallel with the movement known as post-structuralism. So you can use postmodernism is equal to post-structuralism. But postmodernism that looks from the perspective of literature, arts. So you talk about a number of changes. You talk about a lot of changes in terms of reading literature, writing literature. So that is modernism. But structuralism, you look from the perspective of linguistics, literary. It's a theory, and the process of looking at literature, the process of reading literature from the dimensions like linguistics and literary, paradigmatic relationships, syntagmatic relationships that you look at from and in a novel or in a text or in a play in the process of reading, interpreting. That is what post-structuralism will have an extensive kind of lecture later, but just simple term. During this period, you could find a number of isms like absurdity, anti-hero, anti-novel, beat writers, concrete poetry, meta fiction novel, stream of consciousness novel, and there are plenty of different multi-dimensional, multi kind of aspects, and during postmodern literature, my friends. This is something about some little bit basic introduction with regard to postmodernism. Okay, and next we'll be talking about post-colonialism. Okay, friends, post-colonialism, and what is the difference between postmodernism and post-colonialism? Okay, we'll have a discussion and have 5 minutes break, and we'll come back. Good evening, everyone.